Welcome to Yellowstone and Grand Teton. In this video, we're going to spend 6 days in Yellowstone and Grand Teton National Parks. We'll work our way through these two national parks on boardwalk, by kayak, by tram, by coaster, and by driving. These colorful parks offer blue pools, yellow canyons, orange leaves, pink homes, and green meadows. We'll search for the best places to eat with good views, as well as waterfalls, rivers, and lakes with sunken ships. We'll visit magnificent lodges, beautiful barns, cute playhouses, scenic log churches, and historic cabins. We're Matt and Cheryl, and we write travel guides for the West. Thanks for joining us. And if you like this road trip, stick around to the end, and we'll show you how you can pull this off for yourself. Our first stop is Madison Valley in Yellowstone, which is where we're going to camp for a few nights. For those not camping here, this is an overlooked stop because there aren't any main sites here, but this makes for a very peaceful walk to the Madison River.
This morning I got up, it's only 7:30, and I just took a quarter-mile walk from my campground and found this valley, and I have it all to myself.
Now this little river here, the Madison River, actually flows out of the park into the Missouri River. A little place called Three Forks, Montana is where the Missouri River begins.
Yellowstone is really big, and it's really important to understand the layout of it. It's one great big loop called the Grand Loop, and it can take between 4 to 7 hours to drive around it if you don't stop for anything. And so camping inside the park or getting lodging inside the park will really, I think, help benefit your stay here. There are 12 campgrounds and 2,000 campsites.
Our first stop is Gibbon Falls, just upstream from the Madison River. This awesome waterfall spreads out and flows into the Gibbon River, which flows into the Madison River. There are so many rivers flowing through Yellowstone, and one of the best things about it is that the roads often travel next to them. While many rivers in the Rockies travel in canyons, Yellowstone's often travel through wide open valleys. The reason for this is because Yellowstone is a volcano, and huge eruptions in the past demolished many of the mountains, leaving behind large valleys and geyser basins. In fact, Gibbon Falls itself is actually the edge of the volcano opening, also known as a caldera. The large valleys also make Yellowstone the perfect place for wildlife to roam freely. Our next stop is the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone, created by the mighty Yellowstone River. This is located on the east side of the park. There are 7 viewpoints from which we can see the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone. And nearby is something called Canyon Village that we'll visit after viewing the canyon. The crazy thing about the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone is, of course, that it's yellow. The walls are rhyolite, which is volcanic rock left over from Yellowstone eruptions, one of which they estimate produced enough ash to cover much of the western United States.
We never, and I mean never, miss a chance to see the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone, and we think the Artist Point is the very best spot to see it. But today we're super excited because we're going to go see this Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone from a few different lookouts.
We're now walking down some switchbacks to a very cool viewpoint that I will let you enjoy without me talking.
I want to see this. That should look epic.
The trail to get here is easy. It's the trail going up that's hard. So Molly, we're gonna count the switchbacks, right?
1 so far. 2.
And we're already out of breath.
Yes. 5.
Number 8. No, wait, what are we?
We're on 9.
Number 9.
10.
10. So if you go down to the brink of the lower falls, you need to remember, you're gonna have to come up, huh?
Oh yeah.
How was it?
Spectacular.
Yeah. One of the coolest things about Yellowstone is that there are waterfalls everywhere. I can't think of anywhere else, maybe besides Glacier, that you can see so many waterfalls with such little effort. The Upper Falls is the tops, my all-time #1 place to see a waterfall, I think, in any national park. There's just so much water flowing over. You're so close to the brink. I love it. Close to the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone is just the canyon area. This is an area in the park that has the very most services, including the newest hotel. There's also several places to eat, a general store, a grocery store, a mechanic, which we're actually trying to utilize right now. We've had some car problems, and even a booth to rent bear spray. But our mission here today, right now, is to find something good to eat. Yellowstone gets bashed all the time online for having terrible food. So we're gonna see if we can track down something good to eat here because there's lots of choices.
Okay, so we're in the Canyon Eatery right now, and they actually have a bunch of different options in here. This is called Slow Food Fast. Behind me here is a place called Fresh Walks. So you get walk bowls. Even farther down that way, there's kind of like a little restaurant. It hasn't been open the last couple times I've been here, but right across the way here in the next building over is the M66 Grill. There are a lot of options right here in the Canyon Eatery.
Thank you.
Let's get one, we'll share it. So we ended up doing the Slow Food Fast, a little cafeteria lunch, and we got a half chicken. I shared it with my girl here, and beans and mac and cheese, and I thought they were good. Now, Cheryl got a salmon. Said it was okay, right?
Yeah.
And the kids all like their meals. Hot dog, chicken, fish. I mean, I think Canyon Eatery is just fine. The architecture here at Canyon Village is a little different. It's because it was built during a time period called Mission 66. Mission 66 was a program created after World War II to refurbish the dilapidated buildings in the national parks that had been neglected during the war, as well as construct new buildings to serve the huge rush of tourists after the war. Buildings constructed during this era have often been criticized as a departure from the usual national park rustic look, which is often called parkitecture, and which we'll see later at the Old Faithful Inn. Thanks to Mission 66, here in Canyon Village, you'll sometimes feel like you're driving on Route 66. Now we're going to head south to check out a few interesting places. Hayden Valley is a beautiful, wide-open valley where wolves, bison, and bears roam. The wolves and bison forgot to show up for us today, but we did happen to spot one bear in the trees. Little guy, and he's kind of blonde actually, dark face though, with then a tan snout. Really cute. At the south end of Hayden Valley is an interesting little stop called Mud Volcano. I stopped here last year and really enjoyed the little hike through the upper hills. This is another geyser area, one of the few that are on the east side of the lower loop. This is churning cauldron behind me. It's just a boiling mud pit here. This area is really stinky. Okay, it smells like rotten eggs all over the place here. Lahardy Rapids is a nice place to get up close with the Yellowstone River and the Harlequin ducks. And if the timing is right, you'll see Yellowstone trout swimming upstream against the rapids. So here you can see them leaping out of the water as they're traveling upstream. Cutthroat trout in Yellowstone is a whole story in and of itself. There are non-native species. They are working on improving that and getting rid of the non-native species and restoring the cutthroat trout here. The Lake Village General Store sits on the edge of Yellowstone Lake with a beautiful chandelier inside and a fun little soda bar to sit at where you can eat bad nachos or good ice cream. Also, huckleberry treats.
One of our favorite things to do is to just get a little treat midday. A lot of times we like to get ice cream cones, but the store here at the lake closed at 5 and we're here just a little bit after. So we found something else awesome, huckleberry licorice. I am so excited to be here in West Yellowstone tonight. We get to see Beauty and the Beast and I cannot wait for my family to see it. What makes this Playhouse extra special is if you show up a half hour before time, they do a sing-along, which is really, really fun. And the actors actually show you to your seat. And then during the play, they come back out and interact with you and they take your order for the concessions. So no waiting in line for those concessions. They bring them to you and they're awesome. It's not just popcorn. It's hot fudge sundaes, Dole Whips, all sorts of delicious things. We love coming to the Plain Mill Theater. You can count on tickets costing about $27 per person, and the shows go Monday through Saturday with 2 performances on Friday and Saturday.
Today we're going geyser gazing. This is the Fountain Paint Pot stop, and it shows off all 4 geothermal formations in the park. Mud pots, steam vents, hot springs, and of course, geysers. This is one of my favorites because it's always erupting ever since the big earthquake of 1959. The only time it stops is when this one erupts. This is Fountain Geyser, and we happened to be here once when it erupted, spraying everyone nearby. The most famous geyser of all, of course, is Old Faithful. Today we're going to watch Old Faithful erupt while eating in the Old Faithful Lodge. Okay, so we're now in the Old Faithful Lodge. Not to be confused with the Old Faithful Inn, which is a different and larger building. And then you can see the cafeteria behind me here with a lot of food options. Most of the restaurants in Yellowstone don't have great views, but there are a few exceptions. Right now we're at the Old Faithful Lodge, and behind me is Old Faithful. You can actually watch Old Faithful go off while you eat. I got ribs and I loved them. My wife got a noodle bowl, overpriced, but the food was fine. And that's what you're gonna get in Yellowstone, overpriced food.
Our little experiment, I think, was a huge success. And our food was pretty good. We were in the shade. There was no crowds in there. The only thing I missed was I kind of like the sound of Old Faithful erupting, and I couldn't hear the sound.
Old Faithful is always fun, but the area around Old Faithful, called the Upper Geyser Basin, has the most geysers in the world. Walking paths and boardwalks lead around the basin, and it's only about a mile walk to the end of the basin where you'll find Morning Glory, a beautiful hot spring. With over 150 geysers in this basin, you never know when you'll see them erupt. Oh man, we got lucky while we were walking. Oh baby, it's spraying us. Okay, we're all going back in.
Geyser shower.
Castle Geyser is one of the most powerful in the park. All right, we stumbled into another one. This is like our 5th one today. Upper Geyser Basin is going crazy today. You can see bison anywhere in the park, as well as people that get too close to the bison. Before we leave Old Faithful, we're checking out the Old Faithful Inn, a massive log cabin lodge constructed in 1903. The inn used to announce to its guests when Old Faithful was erupting, and at night it would shine a light on the grand old geyser. Today, it posts the estimated eruption times, provides music for those in the lobby, and has a large front deck to hang out on while waiting for Old Faithful to erupt.
A family tradition that my family has had since I was a kid is getting an ice cream cone at the Old Faithful Inn. We love to eat our ice cream and watch the geysers go off.
To makes me feel better. I can make sure that Our next stop is the massive Yellowstone Lake, considered the largest high elevation lake in the country. It's 20 miles long and 14 miles wide. One of the easiest ways to get out onto the lake is to do a boat tour, which I did a few years ago. Because the lake is so large, it doesn't really feel like you're getting out into it much, but it was fun to see the elegant lake hotel perched on the shores. And the tour guide was really informative. We learned about the insane boat captain named E.C. Waters, who had the contract to give tours in the early days and often scammed people out of money. The guy was literally banned by the park for being too obnoxious, and his boat, which he named after himself, was simply left at an island nearby where it eventually burned in a fire. The charred remains of the E.C. Waters are still sitting there in the lake, now protected as a historic relic. The park once removed the anchor chain from the boat and is now using it as a chain railing at a nearby picnic area. Another easy way to experience the lake is a kayak tour, which departs from Grant Village. Cheryl and our son tried doing this tour. Cheryl was really excited for it, but the tour guides took 40 minutes to explain how to use a paddle, and by the time they got on the lake, a storm looked like it was rolling in and the tour was canceled. They finally got out on the water. We're seriously standing here on the pier. They went about not even 100 yards and had to turn around because they saw thunder, which is crazy.
We heard thunder, and the concessionaires here, safety is always number one, and so we came back, we waited 20 minutes, and we ended up getting our ride canceled. But the good news is now I have an excuse to come back next year. My kayak ride was a bit of a disappointment, but this is a bit of a fun surprise. We decided to come get some food at the Grant Village Lake House, and to our surprise, this is the cheapest restaurant we've been at. Our tacos are just $5. We've got an amazing view of the lake, and something that kind of surprised me is that normally at these restaurants it's like burgers, chicken fingers, hot dogs, but here all you can get is tacos, and that's a really fun surprise, tacos and nachos. So what a great way to end the day.
Grant Village is located near West Thumb Geyser Basin, which is where Cheryl was going to kayak to. So we decided to stop by on our way back to the campground. This is one of the more beautiful places in the park, with deep blue hot springs located right next to Yellowstone Lake.
I have found my happy place. Every morning on this trip, I have woken up and walked here to this Madison Valley, and it just is so peaceful. It's what Yellowstone is all about.
Ladies. Now we're moving to Grand Teton National Park. You'll notice the colorful trees, which means we're here in the fall. Due to our schedules, we had to break this trip into two and leave the kids behind for this leg of the trip, which means you'll get to see how this area looks in summer and fall in one video. This is the Snake River Canyon, which enters Jackson from the south. To get into the national park, we need to go through the town of Jackson. We'll explore this much more a little later, but for now, we want to see mountains. Welcome to my favorite mountain range, the mighty Tetons. Running north and south, the Tetons reach heights over 13,000 feet above sea level. While high, there are several other higher peaks in the United States, but what makes them so special is that they rise seemingly straight up out of the flat Jackson Hole Valley floor. These mountains tower about 7,000 feet above the valley. The Tetons consist of some of the oldest rocks in North America, but the mountain range is among the youngest. The combination of old rocks and young mountains gives them their jagged look. You cannot fully grasp their awesomeness from the highway road. You must get closer and see them from different angles. If you get a little closer, a new world opens up. Lakes, rivers, waterfalls, aspens, and wildflowers. We'll explore the Tetons more from the foothills and from the peaks later in this video. Originally, the national park consisted of just the Teton mountain range because the Jackson Hole Valley already had settlers living here. Our first stop is in one of these settlements in the heart of the park. Okay, so we're standing here at Meaner's Ferry right now. So in the old days, before this was a national park, this guy, Bill Meaner, figured out this was the best way to cross the Snake River. And so he had this little ferry system to get people back and forth across the river. He'd charge them a couple of bucks. He's actually got like a little general store here, and they have built a replica of the ferry that he used to get people across. And what's cool about this park is the number of historic buildings that you will see in the park.
Right next to Meaner's Ferry is the Chapel of Transfiguration, and I think this is like the church for people that love the mountains. When you go in there, there's benches, and I think it can fit about 70 people. and there's just an open glass window that you can see the Tetons through it. And I could just see someone giving a sermon and people just looking at those mountains, just being in awe of like God's creations. And something else kind of cool is that there's some benches right outside of it, so that if the chapel got too full, people could sit outside too and open the window and listen to the sermon.
We'll see a few more of these settlements later and learn the story of how they became part of the national park. But for now, let's stop in at the relatively new and impressive Craig Thomas Visitor Center to see what we can find.
We are at the Craig Thomas Visitor Center, and they've got some really great hands-on things. And one of them is this assortment of antlers and rats. And I've never seen a moose one that you can actually pick up, so I'm gonna try it.
All right, let's see if you can lift this thing. Can she do it?
It's heavy.
Dang.
I think this weighs maybe 40 pounds.
All that Zumba.
Yeah.
I liked the relief map, which gives some context for the geography of the park.
I think that it's one of the best visitor centers in our national park system. Like, it's new and it's really nice and it's good for adults and for kids. There's lots of interactive things in there. I thought their movie was also new and it was good, like really pretty shots of the Tetons, but I have to be honest, I had a hard time staying awake.
I noticed.
Molly and Dean Langstaff from Iowa City, Iowa.
Favorite thing about Grand Teton? You're visiting Grand Teton here in the fall for the first time.
The whispering aspens. Oh, the color is just beautiful.
We're here at Dornan's, which is on the southern end of Grand Teton, and it's I call it like the outdoor mini mall.
Dornan's offers several rentals for fun, like bikes, canoes, and paddleboards. They have an outdoor chuck wagon dinner, and last year we attended the Hoot Nanny, a live music venue for anyone who wants to take a crack at it. But today we're here for the delicious pizza and pasta.
This like bruschetta type appetizer was so good. I was just thinking about it, like I would come back here for this. And
The view.
the view.
While we were waiting for our lunch, I walked down to the river to check out the rental cabins so I could update our lodging guide. And while I was there, I got a big surprise. He darted behind the building, and as I walked away, I saw him coming towards me, so I hid behind a tree. But he kept coming, so I backed up while some ladies nearby ran for cover in their cabin. Then while we were eating on the deck of the restaurant, we saw who he was really looking for. For me, seeing a moose is on par with seeing a bear. We've seen plenty of both in Grand Teton, but we always see moose. Moose are the largest members of the deer family and can be over 6 feet tall at the shoulders. As we saw, their antlers can span 6 feet wide and weigh as much as 40 pounds. They can run up to 35 miles per hour and swim up to 6 miles per hour. And winter doesn't even faze them. We learned last year in Yellowstone that moose don't even feel the cold until it gets to 13 below zero. We've seen these majestic creatures all over Jackson Hole, Idaho, and Utah, and we just love them. Our next stop is the National Museum of Wildlife Art. I'm not Rick Steves, and I can't walk through art galleries all day long, but look at paintings and sculptures of wildlife and scenery? Heck yes, I will. There are some spectacular works here featuring bears, moose, wild horses, and more. This big guy was my very favorite. The museum earned its label of National Museum of Wildlife Art in 2008 by order of Congress. It tells the history of wildlife art, showing its progress over time from early works to more modern works done with Lego. Of course, the Tetons are also featured. This painting was done by Thomas Moran, who earned his fame painting images of nearby Yellowstone. I'm standing here at the National Museum of Wildlife Art. Now this museum here was really interesting. It has a lot of gorgeous wildlife art and sculptures. So if you look at here, over here, this is a pretty cool location. It stands up on the hill here, and it has all these magnificent sculptures outside, and these are just free to explore, which is awesome. So you should definitely make this part of your itinerary when you visit Jackson Hole. Simply just to come here and do the sculpture walk around all these amazing creations and get the views of the valley. Up next is dinner in style at the Bar T5 Chuck Wagon Cookout. All right, grub time soon. All right, we got Wagon E as our assignment here.
Raging Cajun, they're one of our heaviest teams that we own. Those are saddle horses, but they're really neat.
He likes, oh no.
Oregon Trail.
This is Chris.
Dinner served. Come on, table, my boy.
Yeah, just a little.
Oh, baby, look at that.
There you go.
I mean, well then why not?
Yeah, why not?
Right?
There you go.
Okay, I have to get this done. Ooh, baby.
Welcome out, the Bar T5 Band. Here we go. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Oh, yes, here we go. Come on, chicken and dough this one, Chica. Good job, brother.
We just did the Bar T Ranch. It's a wagon ride and a dinner and a show, which I don't think we've ever had the three of those combined. We've gone to a lot of Western chuck wagon dinners, and what I want to say is kind of special about this is like the combination of them. I really enjoyed our wagon ride up here. They were very organized. We had an assigned wagon and an assigned table, so it was pretty nice to not have to worry about where we were going to sit. The show was pretty fun. These employees really brought the energy and the fun, and I enjoyed listening to that fiddle. That was very Western, but I think my favorite part of this was the wagon ride. Like, I could smell the pine trees. We went along a river, and just seeing the Tetons was just a really special experience.
1, 2, 3.
We stayed in Driggs our first night. Driggs is on the Idaho side, or the quote, other side of the Tetons. To get to Jackson Hole from Driggs requires navigating Teton Pass. This is a heavily trafficked pass full of visitors, as well as workers who can't afford to live in Jackson. This is a really pretty drive that goes up and over the mountain to an overlook of the valley. The drive down, however, is at times a 10% grade, which burns up a lot of brakes before dropping down into the valley. Literally, while I was making this video, a section of the road collapsed in June of 2024. This wreaked havoc for residents and travelers, but crews miraculously opened a temporary bypass in just 3 weeks. It remains to be seen what will happen with the road long term. Our first stop today is the scenic Jenny Lake, named after a Shoshone Native American woman who was married to a fur trapper named Beaver Dick, who was very well known in these parts and served as a guide to early government surveyors as well as Teddy Roosevelt. The new outdoor visitor center they've put in here is really nice. It's just nice to stroll along and look at some of the exhibits here. So this is talking about the glaciers. So the Tetons were formed by glaciers. That's why they're so jagged. So they have a great little walking path along the river or along the lake here. And then you can also go down the stairs here and just go right to the shore and hang out on the shoreline. And there's the boat dock over there if you want to take the boat across the lake to hike up to Inspiration Point.
There's a few different ways to experience Jenny Lake, and today we're just kind of walking around it. One thing we do like to do if we're really wanted to do Jenny Lake properly is we'll take the boat across the lake, and it's just a 12-minute drive. It's about $20 for an adult. And on the other side, you get to this Hayden Falls, which is a really beautiful waterfall. We traveled all these national parks, and we've decided that Hayden Falls does not take a backseat to anything that's in Glacier or anything like that. It's a beautiful waterfall. And then you can keep hiking up and you get to the overlook, Inspiration Point, which is beautiful because you get to see all of this beautiful Teton Valley. It's hard to describe why it's so special or to really get even the feeling of this place across on a video, but this is just a great place to be.
Now we're going to go for a drive through the park to see what little gems we can find, as well as different viewpoints of the Tetons. So get ready for some scenery. String Lake is next to Jenny Lake and is a wonderful lake for water sports. This was originally named after Jenny's husband, Beaver Dick. I wonder why they changed the name from Beaver Dick to String Lake. Anyway, the Chapel of the Sacred Heart is another interesting little log chapel where settlers used to meet. It is not quite as cool as the Chapel of Transfiguration, nor does it have the views of the mountains, but it's still a nice little rustic Catholic church. The chapel seats about 115 people, and regular weekend masses are still celebrated June through September. The Jackson Lodge is the must-visit lodge in the park and is one of our top 10 lodges in the entire National Park Service, at least that we've seen. The views from inside are fantastic, and we ate lunch on the back porch, just chilling and enjoying the north end of the Tetons. Down the road is the fabulous Oxbow Bend Viewpoint, which provides views of the Snake River with towering Moran Peak in the background. This is named after Thomas Moran, whose paintings we saw earlier. We are really loving the fall foliage here. These are just beautiful. Oh my gosh, look at these views. It's insane, Grand Teton. Speaking of Moran, the little valley of Moran is a wonderful place to stay. We checked out a few places to stay here that are just heavenly. Dude ranching has a long history in Jackson Hole, and you can still stay at one of the original dude ranches in the valley, called Triangle X. Triangle X offers 1-week stays with horse rides and other activities. Unfortunately, we had to cut today a little short so we could get home to see our son get the Student of the Month award for his high school. Of course, we gladly drove the 4 hours home to see him get his award in the morning, and then the 4 hours back to Jackson on day 3, where we're going to start by exploring the MooseWilson Road. All right, we're here at Rendezvous Park, and we're getting ready to go see
Mama Mimi, the troll. So we were in Breckenridge earlier this summer, and we saw Isaac Hartstone, and we loved him. So we found out that there's another troll in Jackson, and so we are here to check it out today. Thomas Dambo is the artist behind these trolls, and he's actually built 100 or more of them. And what he does is he'll get contracted by cities, and they'll want him to come build these trolls. And these are actually meant to only last 10 years or so. They're made out of these just recycled wood, and he makes their faces himself, but then community volunteers come together and they help assemble the whole thing. And he'll put it together in a matter of days, and then he'll come on to a new city and build another one. He has a website, and you can see pictures of all the trolls he's made. And like we said earlier, we've seen Isaac Hartstone in Breckenridge, and I would love to see more of these trolls. They're so cute. Something so fun about Mama Mimi is you actually have to climb on her. The intention is this is meant to be enjoyed.
All right, I'm a little concerned you're starting to fall in love with these trolls.
Oh my gosh, they're so cute. I want to see more.
We're gonna go on like a troll road trip.
That's what we should do. Our retirement road trip. Go look at all the trolls.
We've seen a lot of the Tetons from the valley. Now it's time to see them from up top. All right, we are right here at the Jackson Hole Tram. This is the Teton Village, and we're gonna ride this tram up to the top. Sure, you can hike to the top of the Tetons, but this is the easiest way to get to the top. The tram rises over 4,000 feet to the summit of Rendezvous Mountain. The ride takes 9 minutes to get to the top, and the recorded narration is actually very nice to listen to. Cheryl said it felt like a Disney ride as it gave some stats, like how it's nicknamed Big Red and was the most expensive ski lift ever built in the United States. It opened in 2008, replacing the prior tram that operated for a solid 40 years. The original tram carried 62 people, while this carries 100 people. Built by companies from Austria and Switzerland, it is the longest ski lift in North America. It takes us to the summit, which is 10,450 feet above sea level. There really isn't a lot going on at the summit, but they recently installed something called the Skywalk. So we just took the tram up here, and they have built this brand new platform to come out here and kind of get a different view or perspective of the valley. You can see over here is the tram, and down below is Jackson Hole. I mean, these are incredible views of Jackson Hole. It's really spectacular all the way up here. In fact, what's really cool is out here on the edge, you can see Grand Teton Peak from here. So this is like the best view of Jackson Hole from up above. You can see it was windy and pretty chilly, so we visited Corbett's Cabin for some of their delicious hot chocolate and waffles. They offer several different kinds of waffles. We chose the Nutella waffle. Nutella waffle, which is insanely good, and they give it to you like a sandwich. The MooseWilson Road got its clever name because it connects the communities of Moose and Wilson. It's a windy road through some beautiful foothills in the Tetons. It was recently paved and provides nice views of the aspens, rivers, and ponds where moose often roam. Our next stop is the Rockefeller Preserve.
Now, most of us have heard of John D. Rockefeller, but his son, John D. Rockefeller Jr., he was very instrumental in getting this land set aside.
So let's go on a walk through the preserve while I tell you the story. I mentioned the settlements in Jackson earlier in this video. In the 1920s, there was a movement to convert the valley to be part of the national park, but much of it was privately owned. So a plan was hatched to get the wealthy Rockefeller family to buy up all the land and gift it to the National Park Service. John D. Rockefeller Jr. accomplished the goal, and in the process became the most hated man in Wyoming, especially because he kept his own Jackson Ranch for himself. However, in 2001, his son donated their ranch to Grand Teton National Park. Today, there's a nature center, some accessible walks, as well as a hike to the beautiful Phelps Lake, which we last did during COVID. Okay, now let's finish off day 3 by heading into Jackson with its elk antler arches and nice little town square. We've done another video with some of our favorite things to do in Jackson, which we'll link to above and below. But tonight, we're checking out the Jackson Hole Playhouse for the very first time.
We're kind of hooked on going to the Playmill Theater in Yellowstone, but tonight we are gonna try the one in Jackson. Look how cute this old theater is. It's a show, but you can also buy a dinner before, so we're gonna try both.
I think I heard that this is like the oldest building in the city. It is one of the very few buildings in town that date all the way back to kind of the early days of the city. Inside has the best ambiance.
I will give you your show ticket for tonight.
The smells from the concession stand are amazing, and the Old West theming is fantastic. Really super cute little restaurant and theater here. Got delightful little Western music playing. This is the oldest building in Jackson and was once a livery, then a garage for stagecoaches. It's been a car dealership, bowling alley, a mercantile shop, and a post office. In 1980, a woman named Vicki Garnick opened the theater, and she's kept it going ever since, persevering through the loss of her husband and the COVID years. Though she's getting up in her years, she says she keeps doing it because of her love of theater and bringing joy to people. The Playhouse, by the way, also puts on the daily shootout in town, which has been going since the 1950s.
Cowboy, great American cowboy.
Our food was really good, and I splurged a little and got Cheryl her favorite dessert, carrot cake. Then we watched the play Annie Get Your Gun. The young performers were really good. Videography wasn't allowed, but we got to meet them afterwards and tell them what a great job they did. This is my new favorite thing to do in Jackson, and I would highly recommend it to anyone. Today we're headed back into the park to see some really interesting old buildings. These date back to before the valley was a national park. This section is called Mormon Row and is essentially a ghost town. Mormon settlers came into the valley in the 1800s and set up a little community, working together to establish 27 buildings. Two brothers with the last name of Moulton built neighboring barns here. One of them also built a little pink home. The other brother, T.A. Moulton, spent 30 years constructing his massive barn. These brothers could have never known that their barns would become a tourist attraction. Today, they are some of the most iconic spots to take photos in the park. The rustic old barns, with the towering Tetons in the background, provide that perfect Western image that draws so many people to Jackson Hole. Just up the road is a quirky little site. These broken down old buildings were originally an old homestead, but in 1950 they were used as a movie set for a very good Western movie, Shane. Just look at the images from this movie set against the amazing backdrop of the Tetons. I watched the movie and enjoyed it quite a bit, but you don't need to take my word for it. It's 97% on Rotten Tomatoes and was ranked as a top 5 Western by the American Film Institute. Today, the cabins are falling apart, but I still enjoy visiting them and imagining living here before the valley was full of tourists. Up next is the Cowboy Coaster. Like the Teton Tram, here's some mountain fun without having to hike. This coaster is way up on Snow King Mountain and descends the equivalent of 45 stories at a speed of 25 miles per hour. Since the sleds are attached to the rails, just push the handle forward and go as fast as you can. The whole thing lasts about 10 minutes, or about $2 per minute of fun. Okay, we just got done with the Cowboy Coaster. Everything around here is cowboy. How'd you like it?
It was pretty fun. It was pretty speedy actually, and it was just nice to be up there in the mountains and like see Jackson below. That was pretty cool. The only thing I say I did not like about it was filling out that waiver.
Oh, I know.
Ooh.
And they get like all your information. You weren't there when they were getting all the information up front. It was weird.
You're like, why do you need to know this?
Yeah. Yeah, that was weird. But that was one of the more fun mountain coasters I've been on. A lot of curly cues and steep drops, and even the ride up was kind of fun.
Yes, the ride up actually wasn't just like a straight up, you kind of turned and went down a couple little hills, so that was a bonus too. But I mean, $20 you're not going to get back after an 8-minute ride.
Yep. Next up is a beautiful scenic drive through golden aspens at sunset. If this trip looked like something you'd like to do, and if having an itinerary to show you how to do it, and an audio guide to tell you more stories about these parks, check out our website to see if our guide is a good fit for you. If you're planning a trip to Yellowstone and Grand Teton, check out our tips for visiting both parks together. If you want another fun experience, check out our 9-day road trip through Colorado. Thanks for watching.